If everyone will take their seats, we're getting ready to commence the meeting, the forum.
Good evening, candidates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Patty Leroy, the president of the Women's Club of Ocoee. I would like to welcome you to the 2023 Political Forum sponsored by the Women's Club of Ocoee. Tonight, we will be hearing from our mayoral candidates. Helping with tonight's event from the Women's Club are moderator Kathy Sills. Questions will be asked by Sue Lowry and Michelle Cummings. Club members assisting in various capacities will be presented at the end of the event. The Women's Club has held political forums for several decades to provide citizens the opportunity to hear the views the candidates are running for in elected office. We, as an organization and individual members, provide the forum an unbiased view. The forum will be televised on Spectrum Channel 493. Questions from residents may be called in during the broadcast at 407-554-7118 or 656-7115. Questions may be emailed to citizens@ocoee.org. Forum live stream, go to the city website, www.ocoee.org. Go to quick links and select live stream. Contact information will be shown across the screen during tonight's presentation. I will now turn the forum over to Kathy Sills. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you again for attending tonight's political forum. We're proud to see such a good turnout. This is great. For the audience, the format for the political forum is as follows. Citizens may also present questions via email or by telephone. All questions will be given to the review panel prior to being delivered to the questioners. This is done to avoid any repetition statements, questions of a personal nature, and to present the widest variety of subjects and issues. The civility code will be strictly adhered to. Due to time constraints, we're requesting applause be held until closing remarks. Please no vocalized comments or opinions during the forum. Time constraints may prevent all questions from being presented. If you have any questions or concerns that are not addressed in the forum, please contact the candidates personally at another time. We have runners stationed in the chamber. Please raise your hand if you have a question form or need to have one completed. Our runners will retrieve or deliver the forms as needed. I'll now introduce the candidates and then go over the format for their portion of the forum. Running for mayor, incumbent Rusty Johnson, challenger George Oliver III, currently commissioner for District 4, and challenger Chris Adkins. Candidates, when we begin, you'll be allowed a 3-minute presentation according to the following format. Introduction of yourself, educational background, present or former occupation, number of years you lived in Ocoee, your political platform to include ideas for the future of Ocoee, and your plans to accomplish those. When questions are presented, the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question directed to them. Again, we have strict time constraints in order to allow as many questions as possible during the forum. Please pay attention to your countdown clock and your video in front of you. If a question has been presented and answered, you will not be permitted to revisit the question within the context of another. You may readdress or add to your closing statement. We will take a break after the first 30 or 35 minutes of questions. At the conclusion of the question portion of the forum, each candidate will have 3 minutes for a final statement. Michelle and Sue. We're going to start with the opening statements by the candidates. George Oliver III, if you'll introduce yourself first.
Good evening. Thank you all for joining us tonight for this mayoral forum sponsored by the Ocoee Women's Club. My name is George Oliver III, City Commissioner for District 4. As a Navy veteran, a businessman, and a community advocate, I have always worked towards making a difference in the lives of the residents in my community. With an MBA and 2 legal degrees, education has always been a priority in our household. I have served as a compliance manager for one of the largest accounting firms in the world. I currently work for the United States Treasury Department. I have a big heart and a passion for our city. Through a series of accomplishments designed to improve the city, I have expanded some employment opportunities for young people and established the Ocoee Youth Council to help cultivate future leaders. I'm here tonight to explain why I am the best candidate to serve as your next mayor. Let me start by acknowledging the dedication of our current mayor, Rusty Johnson. He has served our city for many years, and I respect the contributions that he's made to our community. However, I believe that it's time for a change. It is time for fresh ideas, new energy, and leadership who is committed to listening to the needs and concerns of all our residents. I have worked tirelessly during 2 election terms to make our city a better place to work, live, and raise a family. My vision for mayor is included in my 40-year plan. It can be seen, read in its entirety by going to my website, georgeoliverformayor.com. One of my top priorities as mayor would be to support infrastructure growth. Other issues to be addressed is to complete an operational audit to see how healthy our city is financially. What are we hiding? Next, we need to have a written vision and mission in place to establish a foundation we all can build upon. I am running for mayor because I want to make a difference. It is important that leadership is held accountable. I believe that we need to invest in our police and fire departments to ensure that our residents are safe and secure. I am also committed to promoting economic development in our city. As your next mayor, I will work to attract new business and to support our existing business with grants and incentives. I know that I'm the best candidate for mayor because of my experience, my leadership, and my commitment to build a brighter future for our community. I'm here to listen to your concerns, to work hard on your behalf. On March 14th, let your vote be your voice. George Oliver for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Mr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mrs. Seals, and I appreciate you chairing this event. I also want to thank the Women's Club for hosting the event. You're doing a great service to our city, our taxpayers, and it's important for you to know who your local or potential local elected officials may be. I want to start out by saying a little bit about my youth. I was born to a 16 and a 17-year-old mother and father. Lasted about 6 months or a year. At the end of the day, that made me a little bit more of who I am, helped me to fight, okay? I started when I was 18 or 19, I was living from couch to couch. I was living in my car. I called my grandmother and I said, "Grandma, can I come live with you? I've struggled a lot since I've been young." My mother, she was a convicted felon, served a good portion of my teenage years in prison, suffered with mental illness. My father, he was a part-time dad. He paid his child support. I respect that. I forgive them both. They were young. They were children, like I said. But when I moved here with my grandmother, I started looking for a job, and I came across this little shoe store. It's called Journeys. It's colorful. It's bright. It's loud. It's fun. And I was just looking for a part-time job, so I did. I got a part-time job there. Before you know it, I was assistant manager. Before you know it, I was general store manager. Before you know it, I was nationally recognized as one of the best store managers in the whole country. Really, literally did I know that that was Genesco, a Fortune 500 company with global stores, thousands of them. Before you know it, I was an area district sales manager, an operations manager, controlling all of Orlando, 6 stores in total. Then I became tasked with expansion of Journeys. I did over more than 50 site evaluations, built more than 20 stores that generated more than $40 million of revenue in just 3 years. By the end of my career, I became a corporate auditor. I started auditing from South Miami all the way up to Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. Numbers are kind of my thing. You know, I met my wife at Journeys. She's outside, and I love her dearly. 23 years we've been married, And I was fortunate enough by working hard at Genesco to be able to purchase my own home right here in Ocoee in Brentwood Heights 23 years ago on my own with no help. My wife's even been the PTA president. We volunteered all through our community. At the end of the day, people say I'm not qualified. I actually think I'm uniquely qualified. Based upon my corporate background, I can provide transparency, efficiency, productivity, and finally accountability to the City of Ocoee. And if you elect me on March 14th, that's exactly what I'm going to start to do. God bless you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll have Rusty Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Sills. I want to, first of all, thank the Ocoee Women's Club for their ability to do this every year. It is one of the best things in the city that we get to have a chance to each of us talk to each other and vote, and where you're going to vote, who you're going to vote for, and this is the way to do it. Come out in the public, meet the public, and let people know what we're doing. I am Rusty Johnson. I came to Ocoee in 1955, 56. I am husband to my best friend, and where is she? Oh, my wife, Marilyn. We've been married 48 years. Right here in Ocoee, she's born and raised, right here about 2 blocks from the other side here. We have 5 children, 11 grandchildren. And 4 of the children live in Ocoee. 8 of them live in Ocoee, the grandchildren. Service has always been a part of my life since I come home from the military and went to school. I went to Valencia, graduated from Valencia, and then went to Florida Technology University. Service has always been a part of our family. I love Ocoee. That's why it's called the Center of Good Living. The way I show my gratitude is by serving. Before being elected mayor, I coached Little League, helped found the JCs in the 1960s, board of the Ocoee Bulldogs, Pop Warner, Ocoee Junior High Athletic Program, West Orange Diamond Club, West Orange Chamber of Commerce, the Lions Club. I have been active in everything that you can be active in. I'm running for my 3rd and final term to finish the job that I started. We started as a commission. Sometimes it doesn't seem like we all work together, but we do. Infrastructure is a big part of our problems with downtown. That's why we put a sewer line downtown, and that's why we're working on finishing it up. Tax rates have been cut in the last 8 years every year. If you go back and look at your tax rates, you'll see that. Police and fire are the national accreditation. We have new parks and expansion improvements of old ones. We just opened a new Healthy West Orange Park yesterday out by the police department. You need to go look at it. It's a great asset to the city. The other part is road improvements and sidewalk funding. Not giving the money away, but putting the money into use in the city. Not spending money on things to give it away to different programs, but taking that money and putting it towards the city pavement and the sidewalks, where all the sidewalks in this town have got to be fixed and worked on. So I didn't become mayor to get rich. Somebody said something about a career politician. Well, if you want a career politician, go to Washington, D.C. This is where I live. This is where I'm going to live. This is where I'm going to raise my family and have raised my family. And this is the town I love. Thanks tonight, and we'll appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Okay, well, now let's begin the question and answer portion of the forum. I'll turn the meeting over to our questioners, Sue Lowry and Michelle Cummings.
Good evening. This question is for all the candidates. We can start with Mr. Oliver. Do you think mayor and commissioners should be full-time? If so, how much should they be paid and why?
That's a great question because it comes right off of my platform. So thanks for whoever submitted the question. Thanks for looking at my initiatives. So the answer to that question is this. It's simple. The city of Ocoee is growing, just like every other city around us. Growth is inevitable. Growth is always going to happen, no matter where you go. If you plant your home, your hopes in the middle of a cornfield, and you get a neighbor 10 years later, 2 neighbors 10 years after that, and before you know it, you have a community. In 10, 15, 20, 50, 30, 60 years, you have a whole village of people there. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to have homes, grocery stores, gas stations, shopping malls, and it's going to go, no matter how much you wanted to stay the way it wanted to, the way you wanted it, it was still going to grow. Our city is going to grow, and it's going to continue to grow. I heard Commissioner Firstner speak yesterday. He said that we're due to top out at somewhere between 75 and 80,000 residents. There's still a lot of residents here that, and I truly believe in Ocoee being the center for good living. And that's what attracted me to the city. But growth is inevitable. We're not going to, you can't turn a blind eye and put on rose-colored glasses and say, we got to keep that small town feel. We got to keep it the way it is because it's going to change. And as far as full-time commissioners, what do they bring to the table? As a full-time commissioner and a full-time mayor, and I'm not talking about paying them $100,000, and that's been misconstrued. I'm talking about paying them enough to be able to support their families, but also work for the city full-time. Get outside the box, bring retail economic development to our city. Go out and meet with other commissioners and see what they're doing. How did they get their city to the levels that they need to get them to? So when you have a vested interest, so again, when you have a part-time employee that's managing a $100 million budget, what kind of productivity do you think you're going to get out of them when you're only getting 2 hours a week? But when you put 40 hours a week into it, they have a vested stake into it. There's a vested interest. Now they have skin in the game. Now they need to be bringing more back to this city. If they can't do that, then they need to line themselves up with another organization and find another job. But as a full-time commissioner and a full-time mayor, it should be your responsibility to get outside the box and bring more economic development into our city, bring for our roads, our infrastructure, our sidewalks, bringing in more restaurants. Again, Winter Garden, they started in 1991, even though they're not full-time, but they planted that seed in 1991, and look what they have now. They have a full-flourished tree and a community that they can be proud of. We have an opportunity now to plant a seed so that we can grow for our Generation Z and our Generation Alpha, our children and our grandchildren. Oh, thank you. That's it.
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I've opposed pay raises. We voted on it last year. I was opposed then, and I'm opposed now. Here's the deal: if you live in this city and you want to be a participant, and you know what it is when you take the job. The job says it says part-time, but a lot of us work full-time at it. But I don't expect to be paid full-time. As a mayor, I receive a stipend of about $700 a month. But everybody seems to forget some of these people that when they're up here drawing that stipend, they're also drawing benefits. They don't like to count the benefits that they get up here. You get benefits you get free insurance. You know, here's another problem about paying, making this job full-time. Apopka's a strong mayor government, but they have the same order of people working there that we do. The city mayor makes $150,000, $160,000 a year. They also have a city manager that makes the same amount of money. So what's the purpose? You don't know who you're going to get that has the right degrees or right ability to do this job. And this is why I say this is a job that you should be doing because you live here. If you have the time, take the time and dedicate it to your life in your area where you live, your family. And we have Winter Garden, for the seed in Winter Garden, they got that seed when Orange County abandoned the railroad. 25 years ago, it was a dead place. That's a fact. Now it's not, because of the county that went in there and put in that road. And none of those people in Winter Garden are going to go full-time. I talk to Mayor Reeves all the time. He's not in favor of being full-time either. You full-time, but you do this out of the mercy of your heart. Lester Dabbs, who was our mayor and my school teacher, said the same thing. You're here serving your community that you love and that you want to help, not to try to get paid. So that's my theory on it. I just think it's a waste of money. You take that money and put it back towards the citizens, put it back towards you fixing their roads, fixing their sidewalks, helping with the schools, helping with the water problems, helping with the sewer problems. No, I do not want to increase, and I do not want to be full-time in a mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Atkins.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Steele. I want to first off by saying I'm going to be full-time regardless. I don't care what you pay me. I think that comes with holding city management accountable, which is what I think hasn't been happening. I look at a bunch of projects that get started and a bunch of projects that don't get completed and a bunch of projects that turn out over budget. And I sat back and I thought, I believe our forefathers actually brought this political system together, as Mr. Johnson said. It's supposed to be our neighbors, working with our neighbors, just to give some opinions about things that happen. And when Lester Dabbs was here, he's a great man. I've done a lot of research on him. But we had only a fraction of people here. We definitely didn't have the budget we have now. So I'd have to say this, like a lot of things, I'm going to be pragmatic and I'm going to listen. I can't tell you whether or not I believe we should be paid full-time or not. I know we have the money. We're the highest tax city, regardless of whether or not we reduced our millage rate menially for the past 8 years. We raise our non-ad valorem rates almost every year. We raised our sales tax just to build this. So we can say we're not raising property taxes, but when we do it in the form of fees, whether it's coming from my right pocket or my left pocket, it's money coming out of my pocket. So that's how I look at it. It's important. I met with somebody recently, and they kind of enlightened me, and I won't use their name because I didn't ask them. And they said, well, Mr. Adkins, I was watching a meeting one time. Somebody showed up from their full-time job, and they had about 10 minutes to get here, and then when they got here, they were asked to approve the minutes for that meeting. Guess what they said? They said they couldn't. They hadn't had time to read them. So if you think we want to have commissioners and a mayor that doesn't have time to actually look at what we're doing and just have confidence in the fact that the city staff and management, who I'm not saying is not, I'm just saying I've noticed some stuff that frustrates me. I think we have to start thinking about how much time we do start putting in up here on this diocese. I don't know what that looks like from a financial standpoint. Like I said, I'm pragmatic. But you know something? I look at what the average median income is in the city of Ocoee, and I don't think anybody on this commission should make more than what the average citizen does. I can tell you that. I don't think you should be getting enriched by it. I don't think that's acceptable. But I think with anything, you have to keep an open mind. Because in my opinion, the way that it's working now and having nothing but confidence in a city manager without having enough accountability from part-time commissioners and mayors, I think we have to do something. And like I said, regardless of what I'm paid, whether it's a $700 stipend, whether it's a $1,000 stipend, I'm going to work full-time. Once a week, I'll dig a ditch, I'll swing a weed eater, I'll work in an office. I will be here full-time because that's what the taxpayers deserve. And when we are, we can hold everyone else accountable. Thank you.
The next question is addressed to Mr. Johnson and Mr. Oliver, and then there will be a follow-up question for Mr. Adkins. How did you utilize the yearly 10K contingency money each commissioner and mayor received to benefit Ocoee residents? Mr. Johnson?
Did you say, I couldn't hear you. You said Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I could show you, I didn't bring that, but all mine go to the charities, high school, heart fund. I don't go pay people's sewer facilities, putting in their backyard sewer thing for them. Because if you did that, you got a lot of citizens would have to have that. But I strictly do, I put it in through the city, my executive secretary. I've given money to the heart, I've given money to the high school band, mothers and fathers that work in the thing, because they don't get any money out of the school. I've given money to West Orange High School. I've given money to the arts, HAPCO, which we had a concert here last week. I give money to them every year. So if it's something that come about because I didn't want people coming and asking for money all the time, so we do it that way. If I had my way, I'd vote to go back the way it was. We don't get that $10,000 because I think sometimes it gets paid out to places it shouldn't be paid out to, and I don't believe in that. I think if it is not going to a charity or not going to something that functions for our schools or that, I don't think we're to be doing that. I would, can I make a comment on that question a while ago? Or is it?
No, I'm sorry, we can't go back.
No, okay, just asking. Want to know before it happens. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Oliver?
I thought it's pretty interesting the way the mayor answered that question, particularly about sewages. I shall pass this way but once. Any good that I can do for any kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it. I should only pass this way but once. So when you're out knocking on doors, meeting with citizens, doing whatever you need to do, and you run across a citizen that is having a problem where it affects their health, and their septic tank was so bad they're living in filth, they're walking around in 2 inches of sewage in their home, and you can walk away from that, I can't. So I use $500 of my $10,000 to help that lady and her family to get that sewage out of their home. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and that's okay. I'll stand on the wrong. But I do know that someone was in need, in dire need, and it was my duty to help them. As far as any other funding that I do for our $10,000, this is an initiative that I had from 2018 to be able to help our high school, to help all the groups that come before us, as opposed to every time someone needed $200 or $250, they had to come before the city commission meeting that we only met on the first and the third Tuesday of the month. So that initiative was something that I started. And we all agreed unanimously, all of us, including the mayor, to give that $10,000 so that we may help our citizens and that we may help our youth. So the majority of my $10,000 fund goes
Time's up,
towards
Mr. Oliver.
the youth in the high schools.
Okay, the follow-up for Mr. Adkins, how would you use your funds if you were elected?
Well, I'd start by saying, out of all respect to Mr. Johnson, cutting money that we could help other people struggling is never on my book. If it's wasted, I agree with him. Maybe there should be some parameters on how it's spent. I can't answer that. I can say, though, that one of the things we must do as a city is try to help as many people as possible. That comes in different forms. Sometimes it's youth programs at schools, sometimes it's church programs, sometimes it's summer school programs, after-school programs. Sometimes it's helping potentially somebody who just can't help themselves. So I'm never judgmental on how somebody specifically uses that money, if it's used for good, especially if there's not any stipulations that it can't be used that way. But I would never cut it. I can tell you that right now. And I think the way that I would use it personally is geared more towards our youth. If you look at what it costs to be in the chorus or the marching band or to play baseball, I used to play baseball in high school. I mean, I went to 4 high schools in 4 years. I made all 4 teams. I guess that's cool. But guess what? They gave us our shirts. We had to give them back. They gave us our pants. We had to give them back. Try to go forward right now to do anything in high school. So I think I would try to help people accomplish things they otherwise couldn't. And I think it would be focused more around the children of our city. And even the food shelters in our city that are in desperate need. I think the city should be already contributing to that. Thank you for your time.
All right, this next question is for Mr. Atkins. What qualifications do you have to be the city's next mayor? That's the first. By your own words, you have sat on no City of Ocoee boards. You have never held an elected office. What is your education and previous work experience that would make voters have confidence in your ability to effectively lead Ocoee?
I first want to start by saying everything boils back to leadership, right? See, part of my training at Genesco was great because what they taught me is that everybody has an individual personality. And the faster you can spot their personality, the faster you can get more out of them. It's not all about micromanaging, it's about an understanding. And I've always been a person when I got into upper management that said really clearly, I look for certain kinds of people. I look for paycheck earners, not paycheck collectors. See, there's a difference between the two. A lot of people will show up and grab that check, stick it in the bank, and not care how they got it. And a lot of people work really hard to earn that check, and then we take good care of them. You know, my background is in retail, Fortune 500. I understand what people want. What our city needs is retail. It needs to grow restaurants. It needs to grow shopping. It needs these things. That is actually something I have that the other candidates don't. I've worked in that field. I've traveled the country in that field. So I think I'm more than qualified when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to sitting on a board, I actually think our boards need a lot of work. Our HRDV board is completely down. We can't even get it back up. We've had boards restructured. We got people sitting on 4 boards. We got people acting out on boards. There's nothing that says you have to sit on a board in the city of Ocoee to run for office. Because you want to know what I spend my time doing? Volunteering. My wife is a PTA president. Me as a chief umpire or a treasurer or a coach. Feeding the homeless. Helping those with ALS who are passing away. Just because I don't sit on a board doesn't mean I'm not a servant either. I just choose to serve in a different way, more quiet. I actually would like to work with HR to restructure all of our boards, if you want to know my honest opinion. That's what I plan on doing. I assure you,
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
you elect me, it's going to be done.
Thank you.
This question is for all the candidates. Some city boards require citizens to pass a background check. Do you believe commissioners and the mayor should have to pass a background check as well?
Who's
Who first?
Mr. Johnson?
Well, I definitely do. I think everybody should have a background check. If you're dealing with people and dealing with the citizens and dealing with anybody, and we go to schools for deals, we go to all functions and things, I think everybody should have a background check. You got a problem with a background check, you don't need to be serving for the city. You're supposed to sign an oath when you sign up to run that you don't have problems with your background. But that don't always mean that's the truth, because they don't check it. So this is a job that you get out, you should be. I go to the school to do the spelling bee on the elementary schools. I go to the middle school. I've been to the high school. So no, and even if you go to these schools, you've got to get checked before you can go in anyway. So I do believe everybody that runs for office should be able to be checked out and make sure they're supposed to be clean to do it. That's rules are rules. Sometimes people don't seem to want to do the rules, but that's what they are. So when you sign up, you know what the rules are.
Mr. Oliver?
I happen to agree with the mayor. I think that's paramount for any elected official. I think it's a great idea to have to go through a background check, a background investigation, because again, we serve in many capacities. We're in the high schools. Matter of fact, him and I was at the high school a few months ago, sending off our team to South Florida. So again, if you're around kids or you're in situations where you have to have the utmost accountability for your actions and who you are, yes, you should have a background check. I work for the U.S. Treasury Department, so I hold a secret security clearance, so I have to have a serious background investigation. So yes, I believe in that. I think every elected official, even staff, should also have that, because even staff works in different capacities with the public, with our children. So I have to agree with the mayor in those regards. So I know that most of you always think that we are polar opposites, but believe it or not, we agree on more things than you probably realize. We agree on a lot of things. We vote the same way on a lot of things. And this is just one of those things that I do agree with him. We should have background investigations for elected officials and staff as well.
Thank you. Mr. Atkins?
I find it ironic, yet another policy or rule in the city of Ocoee that seems backwards. We're like littered with them. Look at our charter with the bona fides, whatever, right? Look at our boards that aren't really structured and can act a fool without any consequence. Look at the fact that I didn't even know we didn't do background checks. I just had one. I just graduated the Orange County Sheriff's Police Academy. Of course they do background checks. I think it would be obvious, and I think it's silly that we aren't already doing that. So I agree with both of my opponents. Absolutely, background checks should be done. I don't see why we already aren't. I think that would be somewhere the city's dropped the ball.
The next question is for Mr. Oliver. If you were elected mayor, would you continue to support the Ocoee Music Festival?
That's an excellent question, because I go to the music festival every year, and I support it. I enjoy the music festival. My wife, my family, my kids have been to the music festival. My neighbors, we all enjoy the music festival. So I support the music festival 100%. The thing that I have an issue with is how money is filtered through our music festival, through our city. So you've heard me ask for that operational audit. This is a great connect here, because herein lies an issue. A citizen writes a $50,000 check to the City of Ocoee for the music festival. It comes into the city. As soon as they write that check, it becomes the property of the citizens of Ocoee. Then it goes into our system, separate from our general fund and separate from other funds, so they keep it separate. And then it goes out, it transfers out to another account, which we don't know where it goes at that point. It goes transferred out. But either way it goes, it's still citizens' money, and it needs to be accountable for. We need to be accountable for it. We need to be accountable for every dime that comes out of our city, where it's donated or it's generated through tax dollars. And that is the problem that I have with the music festival, the accountability for the music festival, how the money flows in and out. As we saw in our last commission meeting, when I asked, I wanted to know where does the money, how the money track through the Ocoee Music Festival. And I was told that it's separate, but they don't really track it the way they track our tax dollars. But it is our tax dollars. So if you want to know why I'm calling for an operational audit, that's the reason why. That is a perfect reason why we need an operational audit. That right there, I just gave you a perfect example.
Thank you.
This question is for all the candidates. Do you have a plan to help retain police and firefighters in Ocoee? And how do you feel about term limits for the mayor and commissioners? Mr. Atkins.
I beat up the charter pretty good, but I'll tell you, one of the things the charter did last time was implement term limits. I think term limits need to happen through all aspects of government, to be honest with you. And I think if it goes back to what the mayor says earlier, if you're being a servant of your community, you're supposed to come in, serve your community, and get out to the next person, not stay there 40 years, just saying. And at the end of the day, could you repeat it for me one more time? I lost track. Please.
Do you have a plan to help retain police and firefighters in Ocoee? And how do you feel about term limits for the mayor and commissioners?
So, absolutely. One of the biggest issues I found with the firefighter, and I lobbied on behalf of the fire union for years to try to help with that, because they were really being unfairly treated. We still have a lot of work to do with them. I don't know as much about the police department. It seems like I don't hear a whole lot from them. But part of my campaigning, I've started to hear a little bit of some grumbling about the police department. So I'm not sure what that boils down to, but I can tell you this. Everything starts with working in a happy place, right? So if you enjoy work, you feel like you are appreciated, because to be honest with you, I learned that most people don't leave a job for money. They leave a job for being unappreciated, not rewarded, forgotten about. And the morale in both departments is unbelievably low. That's what I've gathered from them. So it's got to start with working hand in hand with them, get the morale back up, and make sure that our first responders are the most important part of the center of good living. I mean, without them, what do we have? We're going to count on other people? We count on Orange County enough. We were actually going to do away with them. Can you believe we even thought about that? What a joke. I'll do anything I can to make sure
Thank you,
that they
Mr.
are fairly
Atkins.
treated.
Mr. Oliver.
A year ago, we had 100 officers strong, from top to bottom. We were going on about 105. Right now, we have somewhere around 80 officers. Our complete police department is about 85 to 89 officers. What does that tell us? that tell us that our safety is being compromised. I'm not sure as to exactly why that is, but I do believe that if we had more training, if we had more resources and training for our officers as well as our firefighters, then those numbers wouldn't be going in the opposite direction that they should be going in. Those numbers should be going up. So now we have a mass exodus of our police department, and that means we probably have about 40 patrol officers. 50,000 residents, 40 officers trying to patrol a city with 50,000 residents. That's on track. By the next 10 years, 34.4% growth in our city in the next 10 years, and we're operating with 40 officers. We got to do something different. We need strategic planning, strategic goals, strategic drivers that drive those decisions, how we attract the best and the brightest into our city. And these are things that we just have not done. There's risk all around us. Strategic plan mitigates those risks and brings us in solutions as to how we do these things. The city has no mission, no vision. That means we have no strategic plan. And if we don't have a strategic plan, there's no strategic plan on how we're going to get new officers, how we're going to train our firefighters to the best standards. We just don't have that. And we need that. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, term limits is something that we just got put in a couple of years ago, which is citizens is responsible for that, and that's what it's supposed to be. Citizens are supposed to put it, vote on it, and do it, and that's what they did. But the old saying was, if you don't get reelected, that's term limits. So that's how that works too. So people vote you in, they vote you in. Citizens want you in, they'll vote you in. But now we've changed that. So this will be my last 3 years in the mayor's slot. So I have no problem with term limits. I think they ought to have them up Washington, D.C., but they don't seem to do that, but I think they should. But I don't have a bit of problems with term limits. The other thing is, in the fire department, we worked for 2 years trying to get the fire department contract signed. 2 years. In the end, and I'm proud of the fire department. I told you at the start, they are rated #1, and so is accreditation, and so is the police department. But the fire department took 2 years and ended up taking the same contract they were offered to start with. So we do everything we can to represent every citizen in here when we sit and do that at the bargaining table. Before they ever get to us, they go through the bargaining team and the lawyers and then the city staff, and then they come to us. We get to vote on it. But that's one of the reasons it took so long on the fire department, because they didn't take the contract. But the police was just the opposite. The police did it in 1 day, half a day. And they got what they wanted, and the same deal, and we didn't have to fight. We didn't spend lawyers' fees, which we did for 2 years. We didn't spend your money going out having to pay lawyers to do the job that they would never take it, and then come back in 2 years and took it. So that's some of the things that happened. But we do have a great fire department. Listen, you can't beat the service. But that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a service that serves citizens and at a cost that's able to you afford that.
Thank
I
you,
don't
Mr.
think any-
Johnson. Time is up, I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I'm against term limits, and I'm for helping the police and fire. I love the
you.
police. We always have. So there you go.
The next question is to all of the candidates. If you were to become mayor, what would you do to improve the quality of life for the city and its citizens? Mr. Oliver?
I think that's a great question. So whoever posed that question, kudos to you. As your mayor, the first thing that needs to happen is we need, again, accountability. I'm going to keep going into accountability because we need an operational audit. We need to know exactly how financially healthy we truly are. Are we truly a AAA rated city, or are we a single A rated city? We have bonds out there. At some point, those bonds are going to come due, and are we able to pay those bonds when they come due? We need to know that. Without that operational audit, you'll never know it. The thing about that is, we talk about the CIFR. That is a comprehensive annual financial report that we send to the state of Florida. Every municipality does that throughout the United States. They do it. And all it is just a way to say that 2 + 2 = 4, and 8 - 8 = 0, balancing numbers. That's all it is. But when you have a operational audit and there's an independent company that comes in and asks you, I want to see the budget for this department or this GL account, you have to provide that to them, and they will evaluate, are you actually spending those funds properly? That's the first thing I need to do. Once we establish that foundation, then we'll start looking at setting up a strategic plan, getting the citizens involved in a plan that they can be a part of. That means a mission and a vision for our city. Everything that we do should be encompassed in that mission and that vision, which is our strategic plan. Every decision that we make, strategic drivers, strategic goals, if it doesn't fit within that plan, then we don't need to be doing it. And that's something that comes from the citizens, from the citizens all the way to the commission chamber, up and down the ladder. It's a vertical plane. And that's what I would do if elected mayor. That's where I would start.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
State that question again, please.
Sure. If you were mayor, what would you do to improve the quality of life for the city and its citizens?
Well, before we get into the budget part of it, I'd just say what we need to do is make sure our citizens have protection, safety, also have taxes that are lower that can make sure they can afford to pay the taxes and live in the city and not overcharge them, and have the amenities to go to do grocery stores, shops. We are putting shops in. We've got a new people bought downtown. All the shops are going to get remodeled. They're down there working on them now. They're going to bring in different stores. So that's happening. We have an audit every year, an audit. Now, you can call it what you want to call it. This is a state mandated audit. It is for 23 years, we have received a high, clean bill of health. There's another thing here that after this you want, and I'll show it to you, about audit where the money goes for Music Fest. It's right here, folks, plain and simple. If you want to see one about the one that was done back in November, then that's another story. I don't think there is anything left there to see. We have an accredited fire and police department, which we want the citizens to have. You know, you've got to make this place where you want to be able to live here and take your children to the good schools. We want good schools. We want roads for you to be on. We want you to be able to go to the stores and buy your groceries, your wife, your mate, whoever. We want it to be a place that you can say, I want to live there in Ocoee. And I deal with people every day as the mayor, and I'll tell you that they tell you that. They love this place. I've heard somebody say to me one night, they hate Ocoee. That's not true. I have more people tell me every day how much they love living in this town. And that's what I go by, is what they say. This is all about doing for citizens. That's what it is. It's making the citizens live in a place they want to live and they can afford to live and not have trouble with anything. And that's what we do. This city is, financially, this city is better than any other
Time's up,
little city
Mr.
around.
Johnson, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adkins?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and put this up as I start here. There you go. This will break down your millage rate here. You can see we obviously have the highest, and we have for a long time. You add your non-ad valorem fees that are omitted to your taxes, you pay even more. You add a sales tax, and you pay even more. So when it comes, absolutely, sir. So when it comes down, the mayor's correct. We're cash rich. We're a cash rich city. But guess what? We don't spend it right. You know what? People ask me, well, Chris, how are you going to do these things? You're going to increase taxes. I can't increase taxes. We're already the highest. We got plenty of cash. It's called refocusing your attention on things that help with the quality of life. For one, I think first responders have to be addressed, bar none. They start with the center of good living. But then we look at infrastructure and sidewalks. Guess what? We don't have any plans. This year we got 250 grand in sidewalk, but for the previous 10 years we had zero. Maybe it's an election year, I'm not sure. But I can say that if you look at our intersections and our streets and our medians, they're full of trash, debris. If you look at our mosquitoes, guess what? We're counting on Orange County. If you look at expanding programs at the Jim Beach Center, you can't even get in. There's not enough programs there. It's full like soon as you start it. You know what I'm saying? I want to get rid of the tagging and the graffiti that's all over the city now. And then if you think about what you lost when we got rid of our trash department, you lost a once per year 6 or 7 cubic yard pickup. That was taken from you. And your service, non-ad valorem fee, went up. But your quality went down. So I'm going to refocus things. I'm going to get them back together. I'm going to become more efficient. I'm going to use money we already have to increase your quality of life. Because to be honest with you, they've let you down on it. They've got plenty of money, and they've let you down on it.
At this point in time, we're going to take a 10-minute recess.
You stand up.
Okay, the first question after the break is for all candidates.
Can we have your attention? Thank you.
This question is for all the candidates. If you are elected mayor, specifically, what types of industry would you recruit for the city? Mr. Oliver?
Again, another great question. One of the things I would like to do as mayor when it comes to bringing in different industry is looking at our college students. I think about the University of Florida. I think about UCF. Most of our technical hubs and our tech programs throughout Orange County is focused on the east side of Orlando and also downtown Orlando. We have a plethora of students that kind of congregate around these programs. One of the things I would like to do is, when we start talking about infrastructure, is bring in more 5G and maybe in a few years, 6G technology. Wherever that technology is going, bring that more to West Orange County. So not just the city, but actually looking at West Orange County and start thinking about tech hubs. We actually have a mall here that is disenfranchised, and there is space in there. There's a Bed Bath & Beyond that used to be there. When they left a whole infrastructure of computers. They left an infrastructure of technology there, as well as the infrastructure for it. Why not bring in the University of Florida and put in a tech hub and bring in students there? So that's one industry that we can actually grow, because once we actually bring in these type of things, now we can actually look at bringing in more economic development because we actually have a tech hub. That brings in companies like Amazon. That brings in companies like Google. That brings in companies that's going to enrich our bottom line and lower our taxes.
Mr. Johnson?
Read that question again, please.
If you are elected mayor, specifically, what type of industries would you recruit for the city?
Well, we've been recruiting. We've got at the business center, you can find, we have a company that makes gun barrels that they pay 17, 18 an hour for people, for jobs. I think they have 500 employees. They brought in this Paradise Grills is another company that does the same thing. And the other thing is bringing in jobs helps out for the economic benefits, but also having the places for people to go to, and having the quality of things that they need to go and be involved in. We need doctors. We got the hospital here, and we're starting to get more growth with the medical areas in the city, which is a great thing. We need the people to be able to go see the doctors and not have to pay out the what. So I believe that our city is one of the ones that we've been growing with the. Is that it? Somebody say something?
No, sir, you got 50 seconds left.
Oh, thank you. Well, like I said, I think the quality of life in the city is one of the main things, and that is something to do with what the city we furnish, we give you, is having the ability for you to live in a place that is safe, protected, and then having the places for you to go shop and being able to shop and do the things you need to do and have it in the city, which that's what we've been trying to do for the last few years.
Mr. Adkins?
Okay, excellent. So when we talk about different industries within the city, clearly we're building millions of square feet of industrial, commercial property over on Ocoee Poplar Road. So we've kind of established that we're going to be, seeking out those types of individual industries. But I circle back to, again, my retail background, right? We need restaurants. We need to be a destination. We need an identity. I always hear that we want to be like Winter Garden. I don't want to be like Winter Garden. I want to be Ocoee. So I want to find retail, I want to find restaurants, I want to find attractions, I want to be entertainment, I want to be different than everyone else. I don't know how that's going to look. I know that from day one, I'm going to start reaching out to whomever I think could help benefit our city. I can't promise you something. One thing I get so frustrated about is we get promised stuff and it doesn't happen, right? But imagine this. Imagine working with Fun Spot or some kind of entertainment complex to come over and help with the West Oaks Mall. The infrastructure's there, the parking's there. I don't know if that would work, but shouldn't you sit down with them and see if there's something we could do, maybe? I don't know. But at the end of the day, if you look downtown, we don't have an identity. So I'm going to start with working there first, bringing things in here for us to go to enjoy as a city, and to be proud of. Because I like what we have, but I just think we need to get better.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Oliver. You informed a citizen 2 years ago that if you were elected mayor of Ocoee, you'd push to abolish the custodial department and give it to a minority business. Do you still hold this position? Why or why not?
Well, first, if I'm elected mayor, one of the things that I have constantly said that when we actually went to this third party to collect our trash, I thought it was a great idea because it was the way it was presented to us. Saving money, saving taxes, lowering our taxes, lowering our millage rate. That's the way it was presented to us. I asked them, will we receive the same level of customer service that we receive from our city owner-operated trash pickup? We were emphatically told yes. We will receive the same level of customer service. That has yet to happen. So as far as me being vocal about what we should do, I've been very vocal from this dais. I've been very vocal in the communities, and I say the same thing that I said before. If we go back to city owner-operated trash pickup, that's what we need to do. That's where we need to be. That's the level of customer service that we have grown so accustomed to. That's what makes us the city for good living, the center of good living. It was a travesty, and I think about that, and I voted yes. And I think about it, the only one got it right was Commissioner Wilson. I should have listened to her because she got it right. And we should have kept our city owner-operated sanitation pickup. I did 3 ride-alongs with them, and I was so proud about the service that we were receiving from those guys. And we need to go back to that. So as far as who's doing it, the city needs to do it. We need to do it. We need to get back together as citizens of Ocoee and get our trash pickup back to where it belongs.
Thank you.
This question is for all the candidates. There's no question that the crime in the city is increasing and many people do not feel as safe as they did just 1 year ago. If you were elected mayor, what would you do to help increase the safety within the city? And if you are a current elected official, what have you done to work on the crime issues within the city in the last year? Mr. Johnson? Mr. Johnson?
Okay, thank you. The crime rate, we checked with the police chief and the police department. Our crime rate is not as high as anybody else around us. I know we have minor things that happen, breaking in cars and things like that, but that's not the major crimes you see in these other places like outside of town. Our police department, like I said, is one of the #1 accredited police departments, and they are working constantly to protect our citizens and watch our town. The things we do, we asked our departments to keep an eye on everything, checking when they go around the town for things. If our lights go out of the town, at least they can tell us where they're at. We can put the lights back up where we'll have lights for people that are walking at night. But the protection of having the police, we have to hire more police, and we've tried that. But one of the things happened in the last couple of years, the COVID slowed down, and then we had a hard time finding police officers. But what we did with that, we put in a program that takes and gets people, puts them in and sends them to school to be police officers where they can come into our city. We've hired them. We had like 6 come on board last month. So we're in the process of making sure our citizens, and there is a certain quota that you have to have per so many thousand people. We're in that quota or right at it, but we want to hire more people. We want to make sure that they're going to get the things they're supposed to have protection. It is a main thing in our lives and our families' lives is they have protection with the police or the fire department. And that's what we're working to make it a quality department. The thing is, we're working on the contracts. We're going to make sure they get paid the right price and make sure we hire more people and hire for the protection of the city.
Mr. Adkins?
Well, I have a distinct disadvantage because I obviously am not currently elected, so I don't sit down with the police chief to go over the crime statistics in the city. I know we've seen an increasing rate, as the mayor said, of crime everywhere. I think a lot of that starts with our youth. So I think we have to make sure we have police and youth interaction as much as possible. I think one thing that's important, and I've already made mention to it once this evening, is it's not new, but it's fairly new over the last 2 years that we've seen an explosion of tagging throughout our throughout our city. I can't control everything that happens in and around someone's home, but I can darn right tell you that I'm not going to tolerate people tagging my city and making us look a fool. Because as soon as you give them that power, they think they can do whatever they want. I will support the police in whatever program, whether it be a gang task force, whatever it may be, to help alleviate some of the crime that we have. We actually paid, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me, about 5 years ago for some technology that actually hot maps the city of where we have our worst crime. And so please correct me if I'm wrong. And I think that has to start with working in those areas, at least having a presence there. I also think that when we have these little hubs of Orange County that we don't have jurisdiction in, that these people know that, and that's where they're doing their deeds. So in those cases, we need to annex that. That way we can actually start to get into those small pockets in the city and use our police in our city limits to start handling some things. Because right now, we're counting on Orange County to do that.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
we're fighting
Atkins.
a tough battle.
Thank you.
Mr. Oliver?
It goes back to what we were talking about our police force. If we have 50,000 residents and only 40 officers, patrol officers, that are patrolling our streets, what happens to the criminal element? They realize that they don't have as many police officers, so we can get in and commit crimes in Ocoee and get away with it because they don't have the force to enforce crime. So it goes back to the bottom line. Funding and doing what it takes to attract the best and the brightest to come into our city to work on our police force. We got $5 million sitting out there for a shooting range. $5 million sitting out there for a shooting range. There's no shooting range starting to be built. But $5 million is sitting out there, and I want to know, if it's sitting out there, what are we going to do with it? Since we've just found out we have a mass exodus of our police department, that money needs to be reallocated toward increasing our police force back to over 100 to 105, 110 police officers that's patrolling our streets and keeping us safe. And when you see more patrols out there, crime decreases. So my answer to that is, take the $5 million that we got sitting out there right now, put it toward a police force, and enhance the pay or whatever it takes to enhance the programs that we already have and attract the best and the brightest to our city to get our police force back up to staff and patrolling our streets so that we can be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. This question is to Mr. Johnson. What is the engineering status of the old City Hall, and is there any future plans?
The engineer's status is it's condemned. You can make statements and say statements unless you've got the order from this, where the city was found out through the building department, building inspector signed off on it to be torn down. It has black mold, and it also is sliding into the lake. So it's been that way. That's why we built another city hall. So it's, you cannot, I don't know who in here would want to go into a place that's sinking or it's got black mold. So no, and you can go out and say all the things you want to about using it, but you cannot use it. Now, when that building goes down, then it's open for somebody to come in and develop, either develop townhomes or in a business there on the bottom part with a restaurant. So no, you cannot use that building. And the facts are, you come to the city, they'll certify it and show it to you. Thank you.
This question is for Mr. Adkins. You stated on social media that you worked for a corporation and now you coach, but what do you think qualifies you to be the mayor?
I believe I had a qualification question earlier. So I would like to refer to my qualification question earlier.
Okay. Okay.
The next question is for all of the candidates. What has the city done to ensure developers' projects in the city are being completed? For those developers that have gone bankrupt and have not completed projects, what resources does the city have and/or what incentives has the city put in place to backfill and get those projects moving forward? Mr. Oliver?
It goes back to my strategic plan. It's simple. We have developers that come in here in and out, week in and week out, with promises of grandeur that they're going to do this, they're going to do that, but yet and still, we have no strategic goals or plans that keep them, that drives them into a vision that we want. We have developers that come in here that tell us what they're going to do, and we have little to no say. And then we get our planning and zoning board that actually tells us, well, yeah, it's a great project, and then some of us sit here and rubber stamp it, which is wrong. If we had strategic goals and strategic drivers, we could mitigate a lot of risk. We have programs and developers that went bankrupt. And had we had strategic goals and strategic drivers and strategic plan, we could have actually mitigated that risk from the very beginning, because we could have held them accountable at every phase of building. We could have said, show us your financials for every phase, and make sure that all those financials at every phase is accounted for, is set aside, regardless of what happens to your company, the money will be there. And if you go bankrupt, the money's there, the city takes over, and we continue on with the project. That's what strategic drivers are. Those are basic strategic goals that we need as a city. Mitigating risk. This is risk that we took, and now we're sitting here with $100 million project just sitting on hold because we didn't have the forethought to get them to guarantee funding at every phase. Just like our city hall. Had we had strategic planning in place, we would have known that we'd have had the geographical surveys and known that city hall was on a sinkhole. But yet and still, here we are, being reactive. We got to stop being reactive, folks. We got to start being proactive. That takes a strategic plan to do that. And that's what I bring to the city.
Thank you. Mr. Atkins?
Could you repeat the question for me,
Sure.
please, before you start my time?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
What has the city done to ensure developers' projects in this city are being completed? For those developers that have gone bankrupt and have not completed projects, what resources does the city have and/or what incentives has the city put in place to backfill and get those projects moving forward?
Well, at the end of the day, it all starts with your initial agreement and contract. When you make contracts with developers and you sell land, that's city-owned land to them, and then they don't develop it, guess what they get to do? Sell it probably for a profit without ever putting a shovel on the ground. I think it comes down to making sure that when we write our contracts, we write them correctly. If we make an agreement with a developer, it must be contingent that if for some reason their plans don't fall through and it has city property attached to it, we have the first right to repurchase that property. They should not be able to buy our property at a discounted rate, have us rezone it, tell us they're going to build something, not build something, and then use that same land to make profit on it. That happened at 50 West, it's happened at City Center twice, and I'll be most disappointed that we did it our own selves here with this City Hall. This City Hall was supposed to originally cost $11.4 million in the original downtown master plan. You budgeted it. Like when you go and you ask for a business loan, you provide a business proposal that has your budgets and your line items laid out. When we got our $40 million bond, this building was supposed to be $11.4 million and built by 2019. Within 6 months of us receiving our cash, in 2017, the city management came and asked for $22 million. That's doubling it. That other $10 million could have fixed that old City Hall 10 times. You know? It's the bottom line. But what we do is we don't accomplish things as we're told, not only with developers, but even as a city. Now, people may say whatever they want about the old City Hall, but let me tell you something. If you paid to build your house in 1994 and it had to be demolished in 2023, you would be 38 hot and mad. Because let me tell you something, my house was built in 1952 and I can live in it for another 50 years.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
somebody
Atkins.
should answer for it.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Developments. If you all understand developments, you know that first of all, we have no city property with developers. We have no city property sold to developers, sir. I don't know.
You don't sell city property to developers?
Mr. Atkins, there is no rebuttal. Let him answer the question,
That's my
please.
turn. No, sir, we haven't. We have no city property with developers on it. You're talking about Highway 50, that gentleman has put $50 million into that property. Now, right now, he's looking for funds. He's not bankrupt, but he's looking for funds. He's got people coming in from Utah, other places to back the cost. Everything changed when the COVID came through. You build a house for 150, now it's 350. So it's the same thing with city. If you keep talking about City Hall, anybody here check your records. City Hall is built and never was the city tax raised. Nothing. We did not raise it. Not any skunk there, buddy. We didn't raise it. It was paid for. You got all the prices. My son's building a house right now. The houses went from $200,000 to $400,000. So it's cost factor everywhere you go. Concrete. We got for instance, today, our price bid come in on the concrete work we're going to do in the city sidewalks. It's $1 million above what the projected cost was. $1 million more. But that's not our fault. That's the contractor's fault. But you can make excuses and say things that aren't accurate, but you need to verify stuff before you make those statements. Trash pickup. Trash pickup was a mistake, but mistakes get made and we correct them. We've put a thing into the budget this year. We have a man that started this week that we've followed him around with another truck of our own that does that. And if they don't pick up and meet the grade, we will fire them. So it's in the end of a contract. But if they do not meet the standards, we will fire them. So yes, that has cost them. I voted for it. He's
Thank you,
right.
Mr.
Mr. Wilson
Johnson.
did vote for it.
Thank you so much.
This question is for all the candidates. What initiatives would you take to increase the participation in volunteer boards? Mr. Atkins.
I think volunteer boards are one of the most important things you can have when they're appropriately laid out. I think one of the biggest issues that you have is it tends to be a friend of a friend who gets nominated by a friend, and it becomes a big friend party. We don't get enough people from around the city who want to come and volunteer. It's tough. People don't like to volunteer, but we don't really do a very good job on promoting it either. I can tell you right now, I will use our water department a lot like some of our neighbors to make sure that the word gets out. Because we just don't do a good enough job of that. And that's in a lot of aspects, right? And we have to make sure that as a commissioner, when you only have 15 minutes a week as a part-time commissioner, let's say, then how do you get out in your community and find people who want to actually volunteer, right? You're just doing the bare minimum. You're just there for a little while. Not everyone is set for it, but I think what we have to do is we got to work through human resources. I've always, with my background in corporate, utilized human resources as my standard to how we accomplish things, to make sure that they're not only diverse but fair. And I think that it's imperative for us to try to get out there and pound the pavement and find people. That's what we have to do. Sometimes we get comfortable because we get the people we like, right? We get the people we like, we get the result we like, and we just stamp it all through. You need to have diversity in thought as well, right? That means having different people sit here with different opinions, coming up with a compromise or a solution to a particular problem. Not a bunch of people here just want to make sure it happens and goes to the next step. That's how I do it.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
On the volunteers,
Yes.
our city staff and our city commissioners are supposed to, you go to your district, you're supposed to ask for volunteers if anybody wants to sign up. We have, in the city clerk's office, anybody who wants to can sign up for volunteers and fill in to be on the volunteer boards. We ask for citizens to do it. A lot of citizens in the last same thing goes back to COVID. That thing hurt because nobody wanted to get out and be in public. So we have a place where you can join any of the boards, and all the boards have an opens. So we ask for the commissioners to ask for them in their districts. That was it, right? Just asked about volunteers. We've got some boards. We've got a recreation board that's been started for over 30 years. And then we have a police advisory board that started about the same time, 30 years ago. So those boards are still going. There is problems with some boards, but the problem is you have to get people that want to be there. Now, I don't know how you pick somebody because you get friends to put on it. I always pick citizens who ask to be on the board, I'll put them on the board. And that's how it works. It's what you're supposed to do. Thank you.
Mr. Oliver?
When I became a commissioner in 2018, one of the first orders of business was to disband the Planning and Zoning Board. I didn't have enough information to understand why we were doing something like that, and it was my understanding that there were members on the board that was fulfilling their duties. They were doing what they're supposed to do. And we voted to disband it for whatever reasons that they gave us, and it was disbanded, and then it was re-instructed, actually reconfigured. And when that board was reconfigured, I quickly found out that a lot of those members on that board had something in common. They had friends, just like Mr. Atkins stated. They were all friends, and you got a certain results that you were looking for as a result of that. That's a shame. So when it comes to these boards, what I think should happen, you have term limits, which all boards does have a term limit, and I think that once you serve one term, you should allow someone else to come back in. We can rotate different thought processes on those boards. I'm the ex-official member of the HRDB board. And do you know that board actually had a waiting list of people that wanted to get on that board? So I want to respond to Mr. Atkins, what he stated there.
There's no rebuttal, Mr.
Not a rebuttal.
Oliver.
This is more of an agreement, not a rebuttal. But what I'm stating is this. The commissioners up here, we talked about 15 minutes of work. Every commissioner and the mayor up here, I've never known them to work 15 minutes. Everyone up here works. It's a part-time job, but every one of them up here works 40 hours a week at working on this city. That's one thing I can say that I'm happy about in this city. All of us up here work, and we put the work in. And when it comes to those boards, yes, we do. We get out and we recruit for those boards actively. So
Thank
I'm
you,
having to
Mr.
kind of
Oliver.
disagree with on that.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. This question is for all candidates. When we have events, we don't have a lot of parking. Why don't we build a parking garage on the old City Hall or a parking garage on any other property here in the city? Mr. Johnson?
Well, being as you asked that, I'll make that comment. That's a good question.
Not my question, but it's somebody's question.
Good question. We're discussing that right now. But to build a parking garage, you're talking about if it's 3 floors, it's $7 or $8 million. But we have some land that we're looking at that's in downtown area that'll be a place you can park maybe 70 to 75 cars. So that's in the process now. We're looking at it. So to build a parking garage, ladies and gentlemen, you got to raise. You talk about taxes. there your taxes go. Because that's $6 to $8 million to build a 2 to 3 story parking garage like Winter Garden's got. So there is places we can park. Now we're gonna work at getting this other place to build. Winter Garden just built another one, matter of fact, downtown behind the Edgewater. You can go look at it, and that's similar to what we're looking at.
Okay. Mr. Oliver?
As Mr. Atkins stated, I don't want to be Winter Garden. I want to be Ocoee. I want to be the best Ocoee that we can be. I want to set the standard. I want to do things that other cities look at and say, I want to be like Ocoee. As far as parking, I think that was a great question, because we are actually actively looking at building a parking garage here in downtown. And that's something that has been discussed over the past few months. And it's important. If you're going to drive business to downtown, you have to have somewhere to park. But again, you can't put is it the egg or the chicken? I'm not sure which comes first. But in lies, my first thought process is, how do we build up the downtown enough so we can draw enough folks to have a parking problem? You got to start somewhere. So again, I'm not sure if it's the chicken or the egg. So if we're going to build this mega parking garage with nowhere to go, I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. But now what we need to start talking about is, how do we get gas in our downtown area? Restaurants use gas. How do we get sewage to restaurants where the sewage is literally 100 yards away? How do we do these things? Strategic goals, strategic drivers, strategic plans. Focus on what we have to do. We have people in our city that's been here and sitting in positions for 20 years or 20 plus years. They become complacent. If they're not about doing the business of the city of Ocoee, maybe, just maybe, they need to line themselves up with another organization. And me as mayor, I will be calling for resignations for those that don't want to do the job. So again, a parking deck for no restaurants, or do we start building the infrastructure to get the restaurants down here, to drive business to our downtown, and then we worry about a parking deck? Or do we do it simultaneously?
Thank you. Mr. Atkins?
How did we not worry about parking, sewer, or gas when we did a downtown master plan? Did we forget the fact that people needed to park somewhere? And you guys all parked here right now, and there's maybe 75 people in here, and it was darn hard to find a parking spot. I mean, to me, it sounds like we dropped the ball from the beginning on that, especially when we had $40 million in our hands, and we chose to spend double what we should on this building. We could have built a parking garage, or we could have maybe put that sewer in, or maybe we could have fed gas to downtown, or maybe we could have put some grants together to help McKee Street and those buildings who aren't up to code, that can't handle any kind of decent restaurant because they don't have the power supply, they don't have the restrooms, they don't have the sewer. What do we do with it? All that money's basic. We were supposed to have, new boat docks, fishing pier. I challenge you to go on the Ocoee's website and look at the downtown master plan. And look at where we are. Come down here and walk around with your own eyes and see where we are. And you'll see that obviously, at least to me, from a standpoint of somebody who likes to be put in the work ahead of time to make sure that we can then execute whatever plan we put in place. Seems to me like we might have rushed a little bit at the beginning and we've fallen a good bit short. I'm not sure what we're going to do, but something has to be done. I do know what the mayor's talking about in regards to the property, and I think that's an excellent start, and I think it should be done 6 months ago even itself. Let's get on it. Because anytime I attend an event down here, we can't find parking anywhere. And so that's where I sit on that. We should have probably done a better job in the beginning.
Thank you.
This question is for Mr. Oliver. You are pushing an audit. Is there a price cap as to how much the city should spend for the yearly audit?
And I think that's a great question. So in 2018, when I was elected, the first thing I asked for, I needed to see an audit. They gave me an audit. They gave me a KIFR. If you remember in my opening statement, I've worked for one of the largest auditing firms in the world. So I know what a KIFR is, and I know what it looks like. And I know how it operates, and I know how it looks. So when they gave me that, I said, that's not what I'm looking for. I need an operational audit. It doesn't exist. What do you mean it doesn't exist? Okay. Now we need an audit. In 2019, I called Robert Half to the chamber, an auditing firm that audits municipalities on operational audits. They did a complete presentation as to what it would cost, $80,000, an operational audit. And the entire city commission sat here and just looked at them, said nothing, not one question. They just let them go about their business. So we did put a price tag to it. It's not going to cost $1 million for them to come and do an operational audit. Case in point, I'm going to tell you why we need an operational audit. We have a CRA that spends money in our music festival. That is highly illegal to take CRA money, community redevelopment agency, community redevelopment area, and spend it on a music festival. It is not just unethical, it is illegal. It is almost criminal to take those tax dollars to spend it on a music festival that's not in the CRA. And I got that information from the state of Florida. I also have emails from our director of finance stating that you cannot do that. I have an email from our city manager stating that you cannot do that. But yet and still, we've been doing it for years to the tunes of tens of thousands of dollars that's being mismanaged and misused. That is why we need an operational audit.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
Wasn't that for all, everybody?
Yeah, wasn't that for?
No, it was for Mr. Oliver.
That was just for Mr.
Yes,
Oliver.
it was just for Mr. Oliver.
That was for all. Okay, we have reached the end of the forum. We had so many questions. We know we did not get to all of them. We do apologize for that. Unfortunately, we can't. So if you do, like we said in the beginning, if you have a specific question for a candidate, please reach out to them and get those questions answered. Don't let them go unanswered. We're going to have each candidate do their 3-minute final statement. And we will start with Chris Adkins.
Okay. Well, I first want to take a second to obviously thank you guys yet again and everybody here paying attention here and on television. Voting locally is the most important thing you do. From the sidewalks you walk on, from the infrastructure you drive on, from the programs your kids go to, from the schools that they attend. Getting involved locally is extremely important. So please, please vote on March 14th. And hopefully, I've earned your vote. If I haven't, please reach out to me. I would like to try. I want to start off by saying something. If I'm elected mayor, and when I'm elected mayor, I'm going to start with a few things really simple. We got to know where we're at. So I'm going to ask for a consensus when the new diocese is formed. And I want staffing reports on the following things. I want to see where we are in our infrastructure projects, our capital improvement projects. I want to know if we're on time, not on time, over budget, not over budget. I want to know where we are in the downtown master plan. We're the same things. And I want to know how the bond was used in the same aspect. Seems only simple, right? We should know these things just by pulling it up. And as a new board here that's going to be sitting, we should know where we're starting from. Then I would like to look at how our ARPA funds have been used and where they've been used. I would also like to see that our charter has amendments. It's not supposed to happen until 2027, but it needs a lot of work, I do have to say. You know, I'm not exactly sure how things are going to turn out down here. I know they're not turning out how we were told. And I think all of us here can agree we have to come up with some kind of solution, because what we have it's not cutting it, guys. It's just not cutting it. And I'm here to work with anybody. I don't care what political party you are, what project you have. I will agree with you today, disagree with you tomorrow. As a leader, as the mayor, that's why I'm running for mayor, not a commissioner. And I'll be honest with you, I've told Mr. Oliver this, he still has 2 years on his term. I don't see why he's not still fulfilling his term. He has a vote. He could run for mayor on the next term. The mayor is a leader. He has a vote, but he can't make a motion. And I'm a good leader. I can get people to work together to come up with solutions. And I gotta tell you, I think that the majority of people in the city are getting a little frustrated with the tit for tat and the arguing. We don't get anything accomplished for taxpayers when we sit up here and look silly. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but by gosh, we just don't look put together professional, any way, shape, or form. Mayor, I value you. You've been here 40 years.
No help.
Thank you. 35 years, Mayor. You want to be here 40. I value you. I thank you. Sir, I have no problem with you. You got a great family. I just think it's time for some fresh eyes and ears, man. It's time to move on.
Way to go,
And
man.
I hope that you vote for me.
Okay. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Oliver.
Ladies and gentlemen, as this forum comes to a close, I want to take a moment to thank you for your attention as we discuss important issues relevant to our citizens. I believe that that my campaign is not just about me or my opponents, but about the future of the city and the people who call it home. As a sitting city commissioner, I have seen firsthand the challenges facing our community. I have worked tirelessly to address these issues. I am proud of the progress we've made, but I know that there's still so much work to be done. And that's why I'm running for mayor. I believe that the people of this city deserve a mayor who is committed to making their lives better, not more difficult. One who is transparent in his dealings with the city and has the experience and expertise to get the job done. And I know that I'm that candidate. My opponent and I have different visions for the city, for our city. I believe that we need to invest in strategic planning, public safety, economic development, and programs dedicated to cultural diversity, while also addressing the critical issues of lowering our taxes. My opponent, on the other hand, has failed to adequately address many very important issues that has instead focused slander on my name in an attempt to make himself look better, like a better candidate. As mayor, I will work diligently to improve the lives of our residents. I will work to create jobs and economic opportunities for all, not just for a few. I will work to ensure that our streets are safe and that our police and fire departments have the resources they need to do their jobs. I will also address the critical issues that are amongst the greatest challenges facing our city today. I am running for mayor because I'm running for mayor not because I'm looking for a promotion or a title. I'm running because I care deeply for our city and its people, and because of that, I know that I am the correct candidate for this job. So I ask you, the people of our city, to join me in this campaign. Let's work together to build a brighter future for our community, a future that is built on fairness, justice, and opportunity for all. Join me as we grow stronger, as we get better, and we go further. Vote George Oliver, March 14th. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
I want to talk real fast because I got a lot of stuff wrote down here. First, let's get to the taxes. The taxes were, you gentlemen put this board up here. I've seen a guy on TV do that a lot. You put the inaccurate things on the board. What you used was the lowest ones in the county on their tax basis. Go back and pull everybody in the county and pull up their tax basis and see what they are. But here's the reason why the tax basis is what it is. 7 years ago, when I took office, we had no economic growth here. Your tax was 5.95. What we've done is brought economic growth into this town, and what we've done is every year we've lowered that tax rate. No matter what somebody says, you can read anything you want to off a board. Check your tax bill when you go home. We have done it every year. Now, I sit here and these people making these comments, you can sit and say things. Please go home and pull up your records, pull up everything that they've said they do or don't do, and verify it. Be accurate. Be accurate about what you do. I'm here to do my job. I've done it no matter if I'd have been here 50 years. You go back and look what happened in the last 10 years in this city. We didn't. We were sitting on the limb and we didn't do anything. You're right. We were doing nothing. And I said to myself, I never cared about running for mayor because I had the same vote they had. And I want to tell you this. I said, I'm going to make sure we're going to move forward, not move backwards. Now, if you don't like living in Ocoee, I don't know why. This is a great place to live, and your taxes has gone down, folks. Look at them, and your value of your houses has gone up. So that's what matters. The other one is Winter Garden. Now, I never said it, anybody who knows, I always say, Ocoee is where I love. Winter Garden is Winter Garden. It's a nice place. I love Winter Garden. When I was growing up, that was the only place we had to go get a job. But Winter Garden got what they got because the mid-trail went through, and they have done a good job managing it, and that's what happens. We have worked on downtown for the last few years. Not one of you mentioned that we went out and got the sewer run from up on the hill all the way downtown, $9 million. Your taxes didn't go up. We put $9 million in downtown, coming downtown with the sewer lines, which you didn't say a word about it, to put sewer downtown, because you want all this stuff here. You want all these restaurants here. Well, guess what? If you don't have sewer, you can't get restaurants here. You can't have septic tanks. So we did that. And yes, you people sit up here on this board and don't even remember, we're having gas put in too. Gas is coming down here. They're working on it right now, bringing up Magnolia Avenue to come up and go downtown. So the gases will be here. So, you make these comments about somebody doing something. I sit here one night and went home and watched a video that a commissioner came into this building illegally at night and put on there that Commissioner Wilson and I were doing things the wrong way. We're doing things underhanded, trying to get against him. So, folks, you can make all kind of statements, and you can make those little remarks like you do, sir.
Mr. Johnson.
And that's the stuff. That
Mr. Johnson, your time is up. Your time is
I
up.
get to say, what are you doing?
Your time is up, sir.
So, thank you very much. I want you to know, vote for Rusty Johnson for mayor again in 4 years, I'll be done.
Okay, this concludes tonight's forum. On behalf of the Women's Club, we wish to thank the candidates for their participation.
I can't hear you. What? I can't hear you.
Okay,
Kathy, I can't hear you.
okay.
Let monitor
All right,
talk.
thank you. As we said, this concludes tonight's forum. On behalf of the Women's Club, we wish to thank the candidates for their participation, the citizens for their questions, and the City of Ocoee for their usual and utmost cooperation, allowing the Women's Club to conduct this political forum in city chambers. We also want to thank the City Clerk's Office, the Community Relations Department, and the IT Department for the coordination of all the little details that make this event a success, and affording the Women's Club the opportunity to help our community make an informed choice in the leadership of this city. At this point in time, I'd like the members of the Women's Club to come out front and take a bow. Thank you all, and have a good evening.
Glass out.
Good job. Good job. All right. Good job.